It's about that time of day again. My name is Joseph. Monday evening, November 6th. Welcome back to your nightly newsletter. We're covering crude oil, S&P, Nasdaq, gold, and euro this evening. Crude is bullish with a spike in channel pattern, telling me to look for a two-legged pullback and buying opportunities with the battle zone tomorrow morning. The S&P is bullish with a spike in channel as well, telling me to look for buying opportunities using seller failures down in the battle zone on Tuesday morning. Nasdaq also very bullish, but after seeing buyers take profit at today's high, my plan is to wait for more proof of either acceptance or rejection going to Tuesday's session. Gold is bullish as well with a big channel overshoot after a parabolic move going higher. That tells me to look for an overshoot back at the low of the channel, which means I'm also looking for a two-try rule to send prices back to retest the high. And wrapping up tonight on the euro is bearish with a spike in channel, telling me to look for selling opportunities up in the battle zone with a target going back down to retest the prior month low. Boy, oh boy, we're back in the action after the time shift this weekend. I think we all survived the end of daylight savings time here. Of course, clocks shifted back on Saturday night. We got some big spike in channel patterns to work with on Tuesday. We get some news for OPEC tomorrow as well. And of course, as always, had a great newsletter in store for you guys and gals tonight. We got plenty of reliable trading opportunities setting up for tomorrow's session. Before we jump in though and take a look at the charts for tomorrow, I do want to remind you the only place to watch the full-length version of this video is here on our blog at sidewaysmarkets.com. If you're watching the video right now on our YouTube channel, not to worry, there's a link in the description of that YouTube video. Follow that link, come here to the blog at Sideways Markets and watch the full-length version of our nightly newsletter. While you're here, don't forget, join the mailing list. I'll send you an email every evening when our nightly newsletter goes live. Lower left-hand corner, follow me on social, StockTwitch, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever your favorite flavor of choice. I'm always posting important charts, links, and updates on my many different social media channels, so make sure you follow along this week. And speaking of charts, how easy is this? All the charts from tonight's video, you can have them ready on your computer for tomorrow's session. Follow that link below the video tonight on the blog and grab those charts, have them ready for tomorrow. Speaking of tomorrow, if you haven't done so yet, make sure you grab our free pass. I'll tell you right now, you're going to learn more with me on that free pass than you will anywhere else on the interwebs. I can pretty much guarantee you that. Don't delay. Once you finish up the newsletter tonight, make sure you head over to the blog at sidewaysmarkets.com, grab that free pass, come out and join me as a guest in the trading this week and learn more about what I call the 3 steps to success. And if you have any questions along the way about anything I'm talking about here today, or if you just want to say hello, you can hit me up on live support on the right-hand side of the website. I'm always standing by to help you guys out. All right, guys, so let's keep moving here. Get a busy day tomorrow. Taking a look at the economic news calendar for Tuesday, November the 7th, we don't have a lot of news scheduled for tomorrow. We do, however, though, have the RBA announcement from down under tonight. If you're trading the Aussie or, of course, any pair associated with that currency, be aware of that in the overnight session. Then, of course, we go right into news from China in the overnight as well. So quite a bit of kind of news in the overnight Asian session. Other than that, though, tomorrow, there's really not a lot of major news on the calendar. You can see we got the home price index from Great Britain around 3:30 a.m. We got some retail sales from the ECB. We get the JOLTS report at 10 a.m. Eastern time. None of these are really expected to be major market moving events. So really, it's all about the overnight Asian session. The big news for tomorrow really has a lot to do with OPEC, though. If you go to OPEC's website, I always recommend at the end of each month, go over to the OPEC meeting page on their website, opec.org. I'll link a copy of this in the text below today's video as well. And you'll notice here, November 7th, we're going to see the launch of OPEC's World Oil Outlook. Now, of course, dig into that a little bit deeper here, and it looks like tomorrow at 14:30, right, basically Central European time, right on that Central European time, that's 8:30 Eastern time tomorrow morning. So 8:30 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow, we're going to have the beginning of the press conference talking about this World Oil Outlook. Now, we haven't seen one of these before. It's the launch, right, of this new World Oil Outlook. So I wish I could provide you with a little bit more insight into how the market will react to this tomorrow. But, you know, one thing we've learned over the the years is anytime OPEC has a published meeting like this, we always know there are going to be some gamblers out there trying to make something possibly out of nothing tomorrow morning. The moral of the story, though, is although this isn't on many news websites, we do the launch of that OPEC report tomorrow on the 7th day of November. And again, it should be around 8:30 Eastern time. So hopefully that'll be a nice little shot in the arm for us, right, tomorrow morning as we open up our trade room at 8 o'clock Eastern time. So again, no real major news tomorrow. I'm not really worried about much tomorrow as far as major news. I will be watching the reaction, though, right, to that OPEC report tomorrow morning. Again, should be around 8:30 Eastern time. We should start seeing a bit of that reaction to it. And we may not see much at all either. I'm gonna kind of be sitting there waiting to see what happens tomorrow morning, right along with you guys. Speaking of tomorrow morning, again, our trade room opens up at 8 o'clock Eastern time. I expect to see you there with me. We're going to execute this strategy alongside all of our advanced members. Let's jump right in. We'll start with crude oil tonight. We'll go to S&P, then Nasdaq, then gold. We'll wrap up tonight on, of course, the mighty euro. Crude is bullish with a spike in channel pattern, and this recent lack of rotation back to the highs tells me that buyers are growing weary of buying so high and will be looking for buying opportunities at lower prices tomorrow morning. The spike in channel is a big clue because it tells me that during that big spike higher, right, most traders have most likely either gotten long or already long since lunchtime this afternoon. And if the market can't keep making higher highs, if everybody's already long, we should start seeing some profit taking, and we should start seeing, right, a relatively significant pullback. It may not go all the way back where we came from, right, but we can imagine a deep pullback here down into what I call the battle zone, right? The battle zone, of course, being the base of that channel. So for that reason, I'm not looking to buy here right now. I'm looking to buy after a two-legged pullback down into that battle zone, where then I'm going to look for seller failure patterns to buy going back up to retest the high. Again, don't forget about that OPEC World Outlook tomorrow morning, right around 8:30 Eastern time. Hopefully that gives us a little bit of a kick up in extra volatility tomorrow morning, because we definitely, right, could use it. So with that said, strong move higher here. Beautiful example of a rejection at the prior day high, prior week high. I want you to keep that in the back of your mind, because on the next chart on the S&P, we're going to see what a rejection at the prior high looks like. We opened up the session, came back. Sellers were rejected trying to send price lower, right, from last Friday's big run up after non-farm payroll. That rejection is ultimately what sparked, right, this big rally higher. Keep that in the back of your mind. I'm going to come back and we're going to talk more about that kind of rejection, right, of that prior week high in just a moment. As you can see, buyers had very, very good intentions today, right? They knew exactly what they wanted. And of course, price jumps up into a spike in channel. We have channel rotation from the low up to the high back down to the low back to the high. That gives me enough to qualify this now, right, as a good solid channel. Now, as I mentioned earlier, when you see a market make this much of a run and then keep going to a new high, you have to assume, right? If you weren't buying here, you bought here, and if you didn't buy there, you bought there, right? So if you were trading in the afternoon session today, you're either already long or you're getting ready for a reason to get out of your long positions. And that's what we have to worry about right now. You'll notice we're starting to see a little bit of consolidation here, right? A little bit of a triangle forming, flat moving average. That just tells me that buyers are most likely waiting for a little bit more information before they commit to buying more, right? Price is now expected to have to pull back to attract more buyers. What do buyers want? Buyers want lower prices. And one of the things I always teach you guys in our intermediate classes is to look at the first pullback and the base of that channel. And that will give you what I call my battle zone, or in some of my older videos, right, called the correction zone. So whenever I see a strong move up in one direction, pulls back, makes a new higher high, I then like to draw that trend line across the high, use that trend line now to kind of project the low, right? And then if we start seeing that trend line hold, right, it's a hidden channel at first, then it becomes a valid, right, spike in channel. Now, take that take that trend line, and this is the key here. Everybody at this point is most likely already long. So unless this market is a remarkably strong trend, we're going to get a deep pullback. Why a deep pullback? Because the buyers are going to want to buy at a lower price. They're not going to want to buy at a higher price, right? So what I'll do is look left, find the base of that channel, and find the first pullback. This creates, right, what I'm calling my battle zone. Now, the battle zone is basically just a level of support, right? It's a level of support. Now, what usually happens, though, is by the time we pull back into that battle zone, the market is feeling quite bearish. You know, buyers are taking profits, sellers see this big move up, they're trying to call a reversal. So the pullback into the battle zone can be very, very challenging on our emotions. And what oftentimes happens is if you try to take the first buy, it comes right around and stops you out before it makes the move back up. So the bottom line is this move, this pullback into the battle zone can oftentimes be really strong. And anytime we see a strong move in one direction, just like that strong move higher produced another higher high, if we see a strong move lower, don't be surprised this to try a second time. And so because of that, I'm looking for what I call one try, two try. I like to look for seller failure down in that battle zone. So one try, two try, and then once I see those sellers in their second attempt to go lower, once I start seeing them fail, then we have the green light, right, to be a buyer, right? So think about the base of that channel, create your battle zone, wait for the buyers to start to take some profit, wait for that deep pullback, look for the two try rule down in that battle zone, again, because usually when it pulls back in the battle zone, it's relatively strong, and then we're looking for a retest back up to retest that high, and then in the bigger picture, this turns into one big measured move, right? This ends up being kind of A, B, C, D, right? So kind of that long-term, right, measured move. Now here's one more, right? Here's one more. What if this battle zone fails? They do fail sometimes. They're not very often, but they do fail sometimes. Where would they be going if they fail? Right back to the beginning of that spike. So if they do fail, watch for that move all the way back down. It's kind of like a flag pattern where a flag pattern fails, it goes to the base of the flagpole, right? So battle zone is critical, right? Defined by the low of that channel, the first pullback. And again, looking for that two try rule. If it fails, if they hold after two tries, then we look to go back down to retest that low. And that's usually a pretty violent move lower. It's usually pretty dramatic. Who knows? Maybe with that news tomorrow morning from OPEC, maybe we see something of that nature. So with that said, here's my spike in channel. Find the base of that channel, right? Find the first pullback. That creates the battle zone. I'm looking for a two-legged pullback, 1, 2, right? And again, that move lower will likely be relatively strong. So look for a second attempt to go lower. And then I'm looking for that buying opportunity, right, going back up, right, to retest that high. There may be, at that time, there may be a level of resistance we can use here, drawn off the top, right? So you might be able to get one of these going on, 1, 2, right, and then go kind of using this trend line as support. It may also bounce up, right, and cause a little bit of delayed falling resistance, which would mean you'd want to get one try, two try, get above it and use that trend line, right, as support instead of resistance. So a little bit has to do with how the market pulls back in the short term. And again, don't forget, if we go one try, two try, and we end up pushing through that battle zone, yeah, well, now you know where we're going, right? Now we're going back to the beginning, right, of that spike, right, that spike in channel. So spike up, buyers have control. Most likely those buyers are fat and happy after this big run higher. They're going to want to buy at a lower price. I'm looking for the two try rule, right, and down in that battle zone going back up to retest the high. Also, watch out for a possible spike in channel here. Got a couple of those in the chart tonight. Watch out for a spike in range, I should say. If we do find our way back up, and the odds are pretty good we do, we find our way back up to retest the high, watch for ejection. You're going to see an example of this in a moment on the Nasdaq, and just keep looking to buy, right, the low of that trading range. So a lot of this has to do with what the next few hours do, and then do we collapse through the battle zone overnight, or do we go back up to retest the high, and then how do we react when we get back up to retest the high? And then on top of that, or the old cherry on top, is the fact that we have that OPEC, right, the launch of the OPEC World Outlook report tomorrow morning, again around 8:30 Eastern time, right? You'll get that press conference. Let's keep going. Don't forget, we're going to trade the stuff tomorrow, right, in the trade room, so don't forget to come out and join me 8 o'clock Eastern time, and we'll do it together. How about some S&P? Now, S&P is bullish with a spike in channel, which tells me to look for buying opportunities using seller failures down in the battle zone, with a target going up to the double up resistance level tomorrow morning. One thing that stands out in this chart like a sore thumb is that we are just above that prior day and prior week high, which will make for an excellent buying opportunity if we see sellers rejecting that area if and when they try to move back below it tomorrow morning. Remember this level I talked about on crude oil, right? Remember that prior day, prior week high? Remember back what happened earlier on today on crude oil where it bounced off it right after getting rejection? That could easily be in the cards here for tomorrow morning. So now you guys are experts on the spike and channel, right? Spike up, channel out. Where's my battle zone? Yeah, the first pullback and the base of that channel. Again, it will usually be a relatively strong pullback, so one try, two try, and then back up we go, right? Watch for possible falling resistance here. Try to use this now, one try, two try. Can you see how I do that? Right? See how that's one try, two try, right? You can use the top of that, use that. Again, it's resistance at first, but it becomes support, right, on the opposite side. And then what happens if this falling resistance, what if it just keeps running, right? What if we run right through that battle zone? Where's it trying to go? Yeah, it's trying to go back down right to that low at 75, right? 75 half area. We got that prior day high, right? Prior day high. So of course, one try, two try, rejection below that prior day high, and then back up, right, to retest that high. Just kind of looking at the chart right now, if we do get that nice deep pullback, that becomes the big measured move. AB equals CD. We also have a double up target, which is also waiting, so we can see how that plays out. Double up target tomorrow, which will also act as a level of resistance. The one thing I do want to remind you, though, is if we can get that pullback into the battle zone, the first objective is to get back to retest that 25.90. Then from there, we're looking for acceptance, that breakout pullback, use it as support, right? So we're buying the battle zone, we're buying through the high, right? We're not buying to the high, we're buying after it goes through that high for continuation, right? Going higher as well. So look for that double up target if we can get up above the top of that range tomorrow. And again, right? One try, two try. If those bears, if they take this into the downside tomorrow, who knows what tomorrow brings. All we know is right now the buyers have control. It's a bull spike in channel. If we hold below that prior week high, this could easily get disastrous here for the buyers. And once those buyers realize they're on the wrong side, they'll get out of those trades quickly, and this price will collapse all the way back down to where the party began. Great looking chart there on the S&P. And again, that spike in channel pattern is a really good clue. It tells us where to look for the trades. It tells them what patterns to look for to get in. And then on top of that, we have that prior day, prior week high. That really puts a cherry on top here for tomorrow morning. Looking good. Let's keep going, shall we? From the S&P now over to the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq is bullish with either a wide bull channel or a spike in range pattern for tomorrow. The big clue being this kind of stalling out right here at the highs. So the bulls have control, but they appear to be taking profit at the highs rather than buying more at these highs. This tells us to look for a spike in range pattern, and the strategy in that situation is to buy below the range low using the two-try rule tomorrow morning, right? Anytime we have a trading range, I'm looking for the two-try rule. If the bulls do push to a higher high, I'm looking for the moving average to clear above the highs, show me clear strength going higher, and the buyers need to hold a pullback for me to have confidence for buying the rotation up to the high of that channel and possibly a measured move target here for tomorrow morning. Get a nice little right, measured move target waiting there overhead. Here's another example of that prior day, prior week high, and look what happens, right? Price is rejected going back below it. So these are three examples, right, of that prior day or prior week high kind of rejection opportunity that we see during trending markets. Really good example there. Sorry about the hiccups here. Now, looking at this chart right now, this you'll notice doesn't have, you can tell, it doesn't look like the same type of environment we saw on the S&P, right? The S&P, it spikes up and then it kind of jitters back and forth, right, inside of that channel. The Nasdaq, it's definitely bullish, right? We're definitely bullish, but we're not really seeing that clear channel. So with that, like any bull market, I'm going to draw off the lows, line them up with the highs, and this creates our bull channel. So this bull channel should rotate from the low up to the high, from the high down to the low, from the low now up to the high, right? So that's the objective. The objective now is to get back up to retest the high. And there's plenty of space to do it right now, other than the fact that look where we are. We're right back around that high. Now, do you remember earlier on in the newsletter when I said in a strong bull market, the objective is, right, to retest that high? Right? Remember what I said earlier on the S&P, right? If we do get that pullback, right, the goal is to get back to retest the high first, then we can go up, right, and look for the continuation from there. The goal is always to get a nice deep pullback and then retest the high. Here's a great example of that right now. Strong move up, two-legged pullback. In fact, you can even see if you draw that trend line overhead, right, that two-legged pullback for the buy. But now we go back up to retest the high, and you tell me, what does that look like? Does that look like buyers were anxious to buy more? Or does it look like the buyers who got in back here, does that look like the buyers took their profit? Yeah, I think that looks like the buyers took their profit. They're definitely not buying more at those highs. The term that I use is called rejection, right? In other words, somebody offered them, right, to buy at a higher price, and they said, no thanks, right? They rejected the opportunity. The buyers are rejecting the idea, right, of buying at these higher prices. So anytime we have a situation, we see a strong trend, we pull back and we go back to the high, which is very, very reliable. It happens almost every time, right? It's about an 85, almost 90% ratio on that. But when we see rejection there, now the first thing I think of is look left. Find that deepest part of the pullback, and that's where I want to be buying more tomorrow. It's either that or we have to see some proof here, hold a pullback, and then we can start being a buyer going higher here, right? So I either need to see one of two things. Either one, which is more common, or maybe not more common, but is expected right now because of that rejection. I'd expect to see that pull back, kind of use this as a range, right, and then buy off of that, right, off of that low. It's either that or we have to see some real strong moves going higher. That strong moves go higher, right? Now I can buy that pullback from there. I can actually use that resistance now as support. Maybe it's a two-legged pullback, right? And I can be a buyer from there. The key in this situation is you got to get a real strong move going higher. How strong? Strong enough to get that moving average up above, right? Up above the high of that range. You'd be amazed how difficult it is to get the moving average up above that high if the buyers aren't aggressively buying high, right? You got to see a pretty strong trend there to get that moving average up above that high. So that's the plan, right, to be a buyer tomorrow. And if that is the case tomorrow, then of course we have the big, long, measured move, right? That'll be a target waiting overhead. The objective will be to retest the high of that channel, right? Retest the high of that channel, get up to that measured move up there at 41.5 area. But again, we've got to see that strong move up, hold that pullback, and then show me you mean it. Show me they want to buy that pullback, right, and hold that pullback as we try to go higher. What is a little bit more expected tomorrow is to see this dip down, and you'll notice I've got the the range low a little bit higher, that 6,300 area, just because it looks like, if I had to guess tomorrow, I would guess this will probably be the range that we end up seeing. Really, my main focus, though, is I'd like to be buying down around that 94 area, right? Again, using that prior week high, we'll love to get a rejection. Now, remember, whenever we have a trading range, it's always really important that we use the 2-try rule. That means we're looking for the price to go lower. There's one try to break out of the range. Most breakouts fail, but give them a second time to break out of the range, and then I'm looking for buying opportunities from there tomorrow. Now, don't forget, if those buyers, right, if those sellers are successful after that second try, the bears go hunting now, right, for that low at 62.68, right? Just like we talked about earlier on the spike in channel, when the buyers fail to hold, right, it'll collapse back down to that 62.68 even area there for tomorrow. So definitely going to have some opportunities here, no matter whether we pull back, right, or if we push higher. What I don't want to do right now, though, is I don't want to buy right into this level of resistance. That's going to be a no-no. What I want to wait for is either strength, hold and go, or 1 try, 2 try, right, back in, or, right, I'm not expecting it, but hey, who knows? Tomorrow is a new day. Anything's possible. 1 try, 2 try. If we do get that strength now going lower here, then I'm going to go out, find my new bear channel, mark up that level of resistance, right, and try to sell up around those highs, right? Try to sell up around those highs. So really, really good example there of a bull channel, but the way that they're taking their profit here right now makes me think we have a spike in range. Buy low, don't buy high, wait for proof, and then buy the dip from there. Looking good. Let's keep rolling here from the Nasdaq over to another. This one almost parabolic here today. Gold is bullish with a strong parabolic move to finish today's session, which gives us an overshoot of the channel just a few ticks below the prior week high, which, as you can imagine, will be a definite area of interest for those buyers. So the bulls clearly have control right now, but the question at this point is going to be, did they go too far? Or are they going to accept this higher price and go sideways? The overshoot of this channel is a really big clue, and most often you're going to see an overshoot on the opposite side of this channel, which in turn will bring us back down into the battle zone, where we can then use the 2-try rule to look for buying opportunities going back up to retest the high tomorrow. Now, if price holds these highs, I'm expecting to see a spike in range. You can see kind of how I have that range drawn on the chart right now. If they do hold these highs, I'm expecting a spike in range, which tells me to buy below the range low using that 2-try rule tomorrow morning. So no matter which situation we get tomorrow, whether it's a bull channel with an overshoot or becomes a bull spike in range, I'm staying patient to look for buying opportunities on a move lower. Now, very important clue here. We start the session off, we're definitely bullish. You'll notice there was really never a moment today on gold where we were bearish. It was bullish all morning. But one thing that stands out is look at the slope of the moving average. Now, here's a really easy way to use a moving average. When a moving average gets steeper and steeper and steeper, right, usually that's an unsustainable move. I call this a parabolic move, right? One of the most common terms in this would be a parabolic move. What that means is that the move gets stronger as the move develops, right? And moves like these are exciting to watch. They're great if you're already in long. But the reality is, when a move like this turns vertical, a lot of buyers, they start getting worried that this might be the highest the price goes, and they take their profit. Right? A lot of traders, when they see that vertical kind of parabolic move, a lot of them start thinking, oh my goodness, this is a gift. I better take my profit. We'll have a chance to do this before it comes crashing back down. At the same time, the old saying, big pops equal big drops, that has a lot of traders, uneducated traders, I might add, right, trying to fade that move. But the reality is a big, strong move up usually corrects just as strong as it went higher. So these parabolic moves can be really scary because they go kind of straight up, and then if they can't hold it here, they could go straight back, right back down, because buyers take profit and it's gone so high that nobody wants to buy up there, and it has to pull back considerably far on the chart to attract enough demand, right, from the buyers. Now, I like to use this channel. And you can see this channel does a really good job at rotating at the beginning of the session. We have two tests on each side, right? This is what we call a qualified channel, right? Rotates off the highs, rotates off the lows. That's a beautiful channel. Well, you'll notice what happens, right? Shortly before lunchtime settles in here, or really on gold, it's the end of the day on gold, right? It starts to break higher and keeps on going through that high. Now, again, that's another clue that we've probably gone a little bit too far, too fast, and we may be in store here for a relatively sharp correction back down. One easy trick is to measure the size of that over rotation, what we call an overshoot. You'll notice I have that measured, put a vertical line on here, and just measure, right, the distance, the kind of the largest distance above the top of that channel. If you take that overshoot, and then as soon as we go back and hit the low, right, pop that overshoot down below it, that's going to give you a key level of support that will usually be one of the most reliable spots in the chart, right, once we pull back to it. Unfortunately, right now, I don't have enough information to tell you exactly where that overshoot area will be, but I do know how much the overshoot has already been. So depending on where it pulls back to, it might be a little bit lower here, it might be a little bit higher here. It's a little bit difficult to tell right now. I'll know more in a few hours. So with that overshoot, we're expecting an overshoot back on the opposite side. Now, this is a very similar we talked about earlier with that spike in channel. When the market collapses back down to that battle zone, it's probably going to be a pretty strong bear move lower. And anytime we see a strong bear move in one direction, what happens? We usually see them try again. So as I mentioned earlier on the spike in channel patterns, if we have to get a real deep pullback, right, to buy low, that deep pullback is probably going to have a little bit of an oomph to it, right? It's going to have a little bit more momentum than a normal pullback. So because of that, you want to let that once, let them try again, and then look for that buy, again, using a term that I call the two-try rule, right? If you went back, if you watched the newsletter from last week, I talked quite a bit about the two-try rule last week. In fact, if you go to the blog at sidewaysmarkets.com or go to my YouTube channel and just search for two-try rule, you'll find that most recent tutorial I did. I believe it was, last Monday or Tuesday, right? It was early last week, right, about the opportunity for the two-try rule. So learn that on the blog here. Again, we teach this stuff, obviously, in our intermediate course. So big overshoot, big overshoot. Now, looking for that one try, two try, up, strength, pull back, and go, right? Looking for buying opportunities after that second try, looking for buying opportunities on the pullback from there, right, to go back up and retest that high. Now, there's one more thing here, right? A lot of times, when we see a strong move that kind of ignores that channel high, sometimes it just breaks higher and never pulls back. So watch out for this to act as a spike in channel, right? Watch for a spike in channel. Now, with a spike in channel, we still don't solve the problem that is, I don't want to buy high, right? If we see a spike in channel, that doesn't really solve very much. I still need to focus on buying as low as I can tomorrow. So if we see it start to go sideways here, anytime I have a trading range, right, always think two-try rule. We probably aren't going to get that full overshoot if it goes sideways here. So mark up that rising support, try to use that rising support, right, for that old two-try rule, and be a buyer back up from there. So really there are two scenarios here, both of which are ultimately telling me you got to stay focused, stay patient, and buy low right now. Either this is an overshoot into an overshoot and back up, or spike into a range, one try, two try, back down. There's also a possibility for a flag pattern here tomorrow, right? Possible flag pattern, strong move up, as you see it developing here right now, possible flag. Flags are tricky. You've got to get through the low of that channel and ultimately buy below that channel low, because the problem is you've got some falling resistance coming in overhead. If you want a great video on this, right, go to the flag strategy on my blog at sidewaysmarkets.com. Use that search tool on the right-hand side. Search the term flag pattern or flag strategy, and you'll learn more details about that. How do we turn bearish tomorrow? Is it possible? Sure, it sure is, right? It sure is. With this strong parabolic move higher, this could easily cruise lower. Nice strong move down. Bears hold it, right? And again, if the 2-try rule is successful for the bears, right, they'll easily take control and they'll be hunting for that low at 66.4. Just remember though, when a market turns directions, I always like to find kind of a hidden channel, right? Find a hidden channel, pop it up to the top, and try to see if I can't combine that prior low along with that hidden channel for the sell going back down to retest that low. So what is support can then be flipped, right, and used as resistance. Again, don't forget, I know I've covered a lot on this particular chart. We'll be in the trade room tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock Eastern time, and you can do it right along with me. Wrapping up here tonight from the euro. Wrapping up with the euro. Euro is bearish with a spike in channel pattern, which tells me to look for selling opportunities using buyer failures up in the battle zone tomorrow morning. One thing to keep in mind for tomorrow is that prior month low, because if you look left, you can see we are inches away from completing a major objective from October. So we don't want to get caught trying to sell into lower lows until we see some proof. I think the most important things right now on the chart, you can see that spike in channel, right, finishing off Friday's session. Spike down, channel out, right, base of that channel, first pullback. You'll notice those bears came in first thing this morning, and the first thing they did was sell that trap high up inside that battle zone. Now, that happened really, really early in the morning today. In fact, pretty much Sunday night. So I'm expecting you're probably going to be seeing another fresh batch of sellers around that battle zone, right, for tomorrow. Remember, anytime you have a level of resistance that's been tested kind of in the middle of the night, it's like the old saying, right? If a tree falls in the forest and nobody's there to hear it, does it make a sound? What do you think? Does it? Same thing happens if we see a test of that battle zone in the wee hours of the morning, right? Does that mean that's all? Probably not, right? Because we still have traders that are waiting to get short up in that battle zone. Remember, if everybody's sleeping when the market did go up in the battle zone, that means there are still a whole batch of London session traders and U.S. session traders who are waiting patiently to try to sell right up in that battle zone for tomorrow. So we know the plan here. This is pretty simple, right? Two-legged pullback, 1 try, 2 try, back down into that trading range. We have a potential here for a rising support trend line. We'll see what it does in the next few hours. We might be able to use that, right, as resistance, right? Get below it and use it as resistance going back down to that low. One thing I do want to keep you in mind tomorrow is if you look left, yeah, big, strong drop down. This is all kind of repeating what I said before, right? Strong move in one direction, two-legged pullback, back down to retest the low. Most important thing, remember, anytime we see a strong move in one direction, two-legged pullback, back down to retest the low, right? Strong move in one direction, two-legged pullback, back up to retest the high, right? We've seen examples of this on crude, S&P, Nasdaq today. This is, of course, the euro now. Markets are fractal, strong move down, two-legged pullback, retest that low, right? Same pattern happens over and over and over again. This one just happens to be right on a longer time frame. But if I look back, I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer here right now. Now you can see why I've really got to be careful trying to sell down here, right? We are at the major market objective. So my plan is to go up, 1 try, 2 try, failure, pullback, back down, selling failures, selling pullbacks without selling into that low. If we do end up back down to that low, think of this as a possible range, wait to go back up, and we'll look to sell it back down from there. What would it take to go lower tomorrow? strength. In fact, a lot of strength. We'd have to see a strong move down, get that moving average below that prior month low, and then we can look at what I call the fake out, breakout, pullback. Use it as resistance, right, and sell it from there. Another great lesson for some homework, right, is to go to the blog and look up that fake out, breakout, pullback pattern, right? That's the pattern I'm looking for right below that low. So again, check out the blog for more supporting information on some of these patterns. Or again, don't forget, I go into all the details inside of our beginner, intermediate, and advanced classes. Last but not least, how do we turn bullish? Strength, pullback, strength. We're looking for the 2-try rule to fail so we can sell back down in. Well, if that 2-try rule is successful, then you know my strategy. Find that new hidden channel, mark up that prior swing, use what resistance as support, and you know what we're hunting? We're hunting for the beginning of that, right, of that spike down. So guys, a ton of great, useful pieces of information here regarding the spike and channel. We have 3, maybe 4 spike and channel patterns setting up for tomorrow. Don't forget, the objective is to get that deep pullback and then retest the highs, or on the euro, retest that low. And also, don't forget, I'll be in my trade room tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. I hope to see you there with me. If you want to learn more about everything that it means to be a client here at School of Trade and to come out and join me on a free pass, grab that free trial on the homepage at schooloftrade.com. You will not be disappointed. I put my heart and soul in that free trial, and the feedback that I get is people learn more on my free trial than they do in most other paid services on the interwebs. While you're here, don't forget, I'm always here to answer your questions about our 3 levels of membership: beginner, intermediate, and advanced classes. And that'll wrap things up here for tonight. So go get some sleep. Remember, I always say it's always the 2 days after, right, that time change. So tomorrow morning will be the real test, and see how you feel when you wake up tomorrow. Hope you guys had a great weekend. It feels great to be back here. We've almost survived the daylight savings time shift. We've got some big news from OPEC tomorrow morning. Other than that, though, pretty straightforward market right for tomorrow. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. If not, enjoy all those new psychology videos on our YouTube channel. Come back and see me tomorrow night, same time, same place, on our nightly newsletter. My name is Joseph. Be well out there. Be nice to each other, will ya? And be here next time. Adios, amigos. Bye-bye for now.